So Fallout 4 just basically got a new DLC. I think there comes a point when we reach a certain quality level with some of the mods being created for the game that it just doesn't even really feel fair calling them DLC sized mods anymore. We are basically just getting free new DLC for Fallout 4. And really, that's what we have today. Sim Settlements 2 Chapter 2, which is basically just an entirely new DLC that fleshes out the settlement system, story system, and adds in several other new features into Fallout 4. But it's easily one of the best things to ever come from the Fallout 4 modding community. I'd actually say probably the one thing that might beat it is Sim Settlements 2, just regular, not Chapter 2. And speaking of, that part is important. This is definitely a part 2. Sim Settlements 2 released towards the end of last year with the Chapter 1 of its story. And Chapter 2 is an immediate and direct continuation of that. Even when I was playing this, I didn't actually realize the Chapter 2 stuff had started. It is such a seamless continuation. It's just more quests are going to start popping up and your objectives will populate. And the core of this is it's going to be a brand new main questline that revolves around the Gunners and really building up the Commonwealth once again via settlements, but other things also. And of course, trying to figure out what happened to Jake, as that is left ominous at the end of Chapter 1. One of the pretty interesting parts about Chapter 2 is that isn't all, and this feels like a huge upgrade compared to Chapter 1 and really any other mod out there. There are side questlines added in with this mod that are quite meaty. One of these is basically just a full-on bounty system where you're solving a killing in the Commonwealth and tracking down a criminal organization. One of the other quest lines is helping the Commonwealth Police Department get established, a group trying to help out the Commonwealth overall, and you play a real central role in aiding them and actually helping them get their footing and fighting crime. And what is one of the most in-depth of these side quests, you also do have a new group with the Nightingales, who are doctors in the Commonwealth. We help them to get more established, but also face a curious new disease in the Commonwealth. And the pretty insane part about this mod is all of that is a ton, but it's not even everything. That's really just the story and questing aspect of this mod, but there are also just a wide variety of new features. Building upon the settlement system, a ton of new plot types for you to build, new buildings, diseases becoming a mechanic, an HQ system with a central hub that you can manage things and build upon. But what is one of my favorite features is you actually get to start rebuilding the Commonwealth for real. Like, yeah, settlement building was always there. Sim Settlements always made that better. But now, as you actually build up settlements and they have excess resources, you'll start noticing that Concord also starts getting built up. Some of those once abandoned buildings will get doors on them. Families will move in. These people will be able to give you quests, or you could just kind of rob them if you want to go that route. So all of that effort of rebuilding the Commonwealth actually starts to make a difference, and this is one of the first mods that actually gives you tangible benefits and things changing as a result. And if it wasn't just clear from everything else I've said, this is a pretty massive DLC. 10 plus hours just to complete some of the questing, at least for me, and I bet you could easily get over 15 and probably closer to 20 hours if you really dive into everything. A lot of those new features are quite extensive. You could spend many hours building up settlements, building up your network, your HQ, etc. This is a true part 2, so you are going to need to complete Chapter 1 first, aka just Sim Settlements 2 and that questline. You can load up your old save if you still have it. Tried to go this route, did not work out, but if you already played part 1 and don't really feel like repeating all of that, you actually do have this really nice skip feature or cheating feature built in, so you can just skip and auto-complete all of those part 1 quests and kind of just jump into part 2, or do like half the quests if you want to redo the ending of part 1. And if you've never played Sim Settlements 2, this is 1000% worth a reinstall. There is a massive amount of content here between part 1 and 2, and it's a phenomenal way to jump back into Fallout 4 with a couple of extra mods. Chapter 1 ends off with Jake going missing and the looming Gunner threat, and this is immediately where you start off with part 2. And I'm not going to really get into any major spoilers in this video. The first half of the questline deals with facing the Gunners, and honestly, between parts 1 and 2, this really does feel like it makes the Gunners a more present and applicable part of Fallout 4's overall story. It gives them more practical meaning as a foe. The Gunners are no longer just better raiders, but an actual enemy to the mission of rebuilding the Commonwealth. Many of these encounters will be quite the fight, and honestly some pretty memorable fights, even if you take into account some of the vanilla battles you have. Sometimes you'll be taking on a Gunner-controlled settlement and in a way liberating that settlement from Gunner control. I say liberating, technically it's more of a massacre, but hey, the settlement is then yours after, so kind of a liberation. But in addition, this also ties in really nicely with vanilla Fallout 4, which is an awesome theme of this mod overall, and really why I think it's one of the best. Many of those existing Gunner locations in Commonwealth are utilized, so you're going to do things like raid Vault for a story-related purpose. Not going to get into why explicitly, but you're going to break into this place and there's actually some quest objectives and justifications for that. The Gunner's Plaza also plays a huge role in this part too. Those are two places that do have their own existing lore in vanilla Fallout 4, but otherwise I feel like we're underutilized, just like the Gunners overall. This takes advantage of that and actually makes them have a larger purpose. All of that old lore, the old explanations are still there, and even some of that old lore is implemented with the existing story of Sim Settlement, so it all ties together. But now, even further, you do have these missions, these experiences where you're going to those locations in a directed sense and actually having a bit more things to do there, more meaning behind them. A huge plus from this mod, even if you aren't super into settlement building, is just how it builds off of the Fallout 4 story and world really well. The Gunners definitely feel more meaningful in Fallout 4 with this one, but also other aspects of the lore and your relationships will come into play. You'll meet characters who talk about the Quincy Massacre. You can actually ask allies to help with some of these story moments and quests. You could ask Preston to come fight with you and help you in certain battles. It very much so feels like it makes the settlement feature much more enjoyable, but also have a genuine story backing. You feel more justified in rebuilding the Commonwealth, and it's not just another settlement needs your help. You actually have real motivations here, and the fact that it makes settlement building significantly easier and more hands-off if you want it to be is a massive plus. I mean, with several settlements, you could just assign a leader, it'll get auto-built for you, and you can kind of forget about it, but still have the benefits and feel like you're actually making a difference. And throughout this entire story, they didn't forget about skill checks and choices. There's actually a fair amount of those. You get to play a big role in deciding how things will move forward during the quests and your precise course of action. Some of these being moral choices. It'll give you a role-playing option of being a good person, an evil person, or just somebody who doesn't really care what happens. There is a raid on the Gunner's Plaza at one point, and this is absolutely amazing. Easily one of the most fun combat sequences in Fallout 4 overall, and one of the best parts of Sim Settlements. It's a huge battle. It feels like we've been downloading all these weapon mods for years now, and you finally have an outlet to really take advantage of them. But it's not just the combat sequences or the tie-ins with the vanilla story that make this stand out. It also stands out in its own right. The dialogue and voice acting throughout this mod are top-notch. The voice acting in particular is pretty much professional grade. There's basically no voice actors that actually take you out of it, and I could show you countless examples of talking to NPCs where they sound amazing.
Every alarm bell is going off right now, but I can't figure out what her angle is.
There's really no need for stalling. This is a legitimate contract, sanctioned and enforceable by the Home Office even out here. Although, I understand the apprehension and respect the caution.
Very well. If you need this facility cleared of all this garbage, pay attention. I shall demonstrate some of the basics.
All right, go ahead.
Now, watch carefully. You there.
Yeah?
Congratulations, you're a janitor. Grab a broom and get cleaning.
Oh, okay.
There. You see? That wasn't so hard, was it?
You may not even really realize that this is somebody making this custom. It's not officially from Bethesda. In addition, it does use the voiced protagonist, and they did a really good job at reusing some of those old voice lines, but making them fit. I can't even imagine how difficult it was to actually do that and build a story when you have a fixed amount of old voice lines you have to use, but it really comes together nicely, and the cherry on top is there are several really cool cutscenes in this. More cinematic moments when you have a meeting between several important individuals or an important story moment where things just get a bit more cinematic. The narrative design overall here was really top tier and it really draws you in. I've seen many people reporting that for them it almost feels more compelling than the vanilla questline. They care more about these characters and some of the choices you get to make with them. But like I mentioned in the introductory part of this video, the main quest is truly just one aspect of this. The side quests turn into a huge component and portion of playtime overall. It's not like these side quest lines are an hour or two. They are several hours of content each. And one of the pretty nice things that breaks things up is a lot of this becomes a lot more personal. The main quest does have these grandiose moments when it is all out war. A lot of the side quests are just dealing with people, smaller scale things, helping people, or even sometimes just talking to a couple of people or going to somebody's house for dinner. It really gets a lot more personal, which is a nice change up, a nice dynamic to bounce off each of these. You'll meet a man hunting down a criminal operation in Concord and really carry out several bounties for him. time, take hits on various targets, and slowly uncovering what is actually going on here. You'll meet this hilarious pastor with a lot of depth that will definitely fit in the Fallout landscape. This was one I really wanted to find out what happened next with. There's a myriad of miscellaneous quests you can complete, and as the repopulation comes in, even more get added. But the two main side objectives or quests are with Commonwealth Police Department and Nightingales. The Commonwealth Police Department, as its name suggests, is basically just a police force trying to do police force thing. You can even ask them to help you find your son Sean. The quests here are pretty straightforward, especially early on, but it contributes to that overall theme of rebuilding the Commonwealth and now trying to protect it. And several of the characters and interactions you have with them are super memorable, definitely standout characters in the DLC overall. And it also does serve this purpose of making these underutilized locations feel a bit more impactful. They have more purpose now in Fallout 4. The Nightingales questline though was really interesting and definitely plays a significant role in the story overall. The Nightingales are a group of doctors in the Commonwealth, and their quests were both very fun and had a looming threat. During one of the early quests, you go out to the sea. Need to give this a shout out because Fallout 4 desperately lacks ocean-based quests, and this one was pretty awesome. Tons of scary noises, tons of claustrophobic feelings of being underwater. Does a really good job at establishing that. But the larger story with the Nightingales is one of a mysterious disease. You're introduced to this with just a couple of infected gunners trying to figure out what's going on here. What is this disease? Where did it come from? What is it doing? And over time, you'll progress things trying to figure out exactly what is wrong and how to fix it. And this isn't just a story component. It also does have several gameplay elements. Settlers at some of your settlements will become sick, and it will unlock several sanitation things you can build, like hospitals, among other things. The questline overall felt like it also hit on a lot of interesting moral questions. Do you take money from an investor for an immediate boost in helping, but potential qualms later, saving people or not, or the people you can't save and how to handle that situation? And really, just in general, the proper course of action going forward with so many unknowns. It's definitely interesting, and it ties into some of the final quests of the Sim Settlements 2 main questline, which, speaking of, as the main quest in this does progress, it becomes very gameplay heavy, hitting to a point where you're actually able to set up your own HQ and manage things on a higher level. The HQ itself has a ton of options, different departments you can manage to advance things. You take over the Gunner's Plaza and then can actually clean things up, build new things there, and the layout interior design will start to change as you want it to. This makes it clear you're actually running and controlling a large network of settlements, and it brings it all together. And I would say overall, Sim Settlements Chapter 2 continues that nice dynamic of gameplay features meshed with a cool story. And they're definitely aware of that, and it's designed around that. There's a lot of moments in the story where you finish something and then you kind of have this break period like, okay, we just finished the quest, now wait 24 hours and we'll be ready for the next thing. We have to figure this thing out over the next 24 hours. And it's during those moments you can go back to settlements, start building things. Along the way, you have a tech tree. You'll unlock new things to build at settlements, and it gives you that break to actually try that out, or even switch and start doing some of these side quests, the more personal stories that are available. And I would say overall, Sim Settlements 2 is very quickly becoming a must download for Fallout 4. Just feels so true to Fallout 4, like a real and proper official DLC. And for better or worse, it is true to Bethesda in more ways than one, as it did have some bugs as I was experiencing it, although there have been a ton of hotfixes to come out addressing almost everything. They've actually been super good about releasing hotfixes, and they even have a support forum where you can get feedback or figure out workarounds if needed. And overall, this one's just a blast. Even if you don't like settlement building, this offers so much as far as the story component that it's worth a download either way. There's some really compelling characters and stories being told here, and it adds in a ton of very interesting and quite expansive new features to add in hours upon hours of additional playtime to Fallout 4. But overall, those are my thoughts and my experience with Sim Settlements 2. Fallout 4 functionally just got a new DLC, and you should absolutely download this on both PC and Xbox. With that said, hopefully you guys found this one enjoyable, hopefully you're having a good holiday, and hopefully this mod will make your holiday a bit better as you get even another reason to play Fallout 4. With that said, as always again, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.